Hi, let's talk about how to put your artwork on a nice black piece of paper so it looks good for the show. And it would be a mistake to use too big of a piece of paper, and it would be a mistake to put it right in the middle. So you've got to cut this extra paper off and throw it away, and then no one else can use this paper. All right, so we want to use the appropriately sized piece of paper. If we have a small piece of art, we're going to use a small piece of paper. I could fit this piece of art here and then trim off some of the bottom. Or if I want a thicker edge, I could put it sideways like that. A little bit of a more generous frame usually looks better. All right, now I'm noticing it's thick here, thin, thin. I really want it to be pretty equal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure these thin ones. That is 1.5 inches. This is 1.5 inches. They're both a little more than that. So I know I'm going to bump this piece of paper over until I have 1.5 inches, like that. And I know I'm going to want to make this be 1.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is very lightly, it's an amateur mistake to make big ugly marks on your frame. You want to be very subtle. I go over one big number, 1 to the big number. From the edge of the ruler to the big number is 1 inch. And then I go to the half mark, and then I'm going to make a little dot there, very subtle. All right. And now what I'm going to do is I know that piece of art needs to be cut off here. Now I know I've got to cut it off evenly. It would be another amateur mistake to cut a big crooked line. I don't want to do that. So I'll come over here and I'll measure that new measurement, and it comes to a little under 1.5 inches. Okay. From the edge of the ruler to the big number is 1 inch. And then I know that this is 1/2 inch. And then I know that 1/2 of a half is 1/4. So it's a little over 1/4 of an inch. So it's 3/8 of an inch. So it's 1 inch and 3/8. Sometimes if you want to be lazy, you can put a little mark on the ruler if it helps you. I'm going to come up to the top of the paper. I'm going to grab that same exact measurement, make a subtle dot because I don't ever want to make a big nasty mark on my frame. And here I'm going to come over 1 inch and 3/8. I'm going to make another subtle dot. Now I've got 3 subtle dots, 1, 2, 3. And I am going to make a line with my ruler, nice and tidy. Don't make a mess. It really matters in framing if your work is clean. It's very subtle. You can see it. And I'm going to cut that off very carefully. It's nice and straight. Now, whichever is the back side of my paper, I'm going to go ahead and write my name. In this case, this is Evan's piece of artwork. And I'm going to put my period. It's very subtle, but the teacher can identify it if there's any question and it were to get lost. All right, I've got it sized correctly. Make sure it's nice and tidy. You don't want it wrinkled. You want it to look good. I've got a name on the back of the piece of art in case it becomes unattached somehow. And now I'm going to flip it over and be attaching it. Notice that I've got tape and I've made very, very tidy rolls and put them right on the edges. Right. Now I'm going to flip it over and center it. You always want this top roll thinner than this bottom row. The reason is the human eye needs a little correction how it perceives things. If I put it exactly equal, this bottom will seem out of balance. So I always make there be a little extra space here and a little less. I'm going to take a minute and just kind of like make sure it's as even as possible. It is even as possible. I'm gently pushing it down. All right. And now I've got to take my name label and attach it in the dead center. They all have to be in the center so the art show looks uniform and nice. So I'm going to take my label, cut it very, very, very cleanly because it reflects on you as an artist, how neatly you present your work. I've got the label, and you're going to notice that I have put two tidy rolls on each side. The reason they're two is because the paper tends to curl up if you don't do the two, so you want the two. I'm going to gently put it dead in the center. Okay, feel free to measure. And once again, I nudge it up just a bit because the human eye tends to think that things are a little too low. It's just a optical illusion that we have to sort of deal with. So if we look here, you're going to notice it's a little narrower here and a little thicker here. Much like it's a little narrower here and a little thicker here, okay? I tap those tapes on. Make sure you can always double check your measurements, that it's straight on, and it is.